Question 1. To better understand how routing and dispatching work in Zend Framework 5.2, consider a scenario where Mr. Donovan, a backend developer, is debugging a legacy ZF application. He observes that incoming requests are failing to reach the intended controller. After tracing the execution path, he notices that the application lacks a properly configured route. The default route is set, but when trying to access user edit, it throws a 404 error despite the controller and action being defined correctly. What should Mr. Donovan investigate first to resolve the routing failure? A. Whether Zend controller dispatcher is properly registered with the front controller. B. Whether the request method getPost is supported by the controller action. C. Whether a custom route is defined in Zend controller router write for user edit. D. Whether the user module is properly bootstrapped in application. I. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Zend Framework's default route only maps URLs in the modular controller action pattern. When user edit doesn't fit this, custom route must be registered via Zend controller router write. Option C aligns with routing behavior. Options A, B, and D may affect other areas, but not this routing failure directly. Question 2. In live recent developments is Eliza's implementing a form that requires user input to be sanitized to prevent XSS attacks. She configures the form using Zend Form and adds text elements for name and email. However, during testing, script tags are still rendered in the HTML output if a user submits them in the input. What is the most appropriate action she should take to secure user input against such threats? A. Apply strip tags manually after form submission. B. Use Zend fill HTML letters on each form element. C. Use Zend validate no tempi to reject empty inputs. D. Enable automatic escaping in Zend view. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Zend filler HTML letters converts special characters to HTML entities, effectively neutralizing excess payloads. Option A is error-prone and not scalable. Option C ensures input is not empty but does not sanitize. Option D helps in views, not in processing input. Filtering should happen before storage or display. See XSS and EF filtering guidelines. Question 3. By evaluating the use of ZendDB Select, a developer wants to construct a query joining two tables, users and profiles. However, she needs the query to be database agnostic and constructed programmatically instead of hardcoding SQL. Which of the following best represents how ZendDB Select ensures database portability in this case? A. It always compiles queries using Oracle-specific SQL syntax. B. It uses abstracted methods like join and where to build queries dynamically. C. It forces developers to define queries using XML configuration. D. It supports only MySQL and PostgreSQL and requires manual query construction for others. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. ZendDB Select provides an abstract interface to construct SQL queries with methods like from join, where, etc., ensuring compatibility across adapters, e.g. MySQLite PostgreSQL. Option A and D are incorrect as ZF supports multiple EAS. Option C is unrelated to ZendDB Select. See ZendDB Select API documentation for portable SQL construction. Question 4. Under the assumption that session integrity is critical for secure authentication, Istayuki, a senior developer, reviews the login module using Zend Auth and Zend Session. He finds that sessions remain active even after logout. What is the most appropriate step he should take to prevent session hijacking upon user logout? A. Use Zend Session. Forget me to clear all identity data. B. Only unset the session namespace holding the identity. C. Regenerate session ID and destroy session using Zend Session. Destroy. D. Set a timeout in application. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Proper session termination must include destroying session data and regenerating session ID. Zend Session. Destroy and Zend Session regenerated. Istwhat's fixation hijacking. Option A doesn't destroy the session. Option B partially clears data. Option D is preventive, not immediate. ZF security best practices mandate secure logout handling. Question 5. The primary reason for using a front controller in Zend framework is to centralize request processing. Consider Istarahim, who bypasses Inks PHP and accesses controllers directly, leading to inconsistent behavior. Why is this considered bad practice in a Zend Framework 5.2 application? A. Controllers cannot function without Inks PHP. B. It bypasses bootstrapping and unified pre-dispatch logic handled by a Zend controller front. C. It causes ratting errors because PHP crypts are not mapped correctly. D. View scripts will fail to render. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Zend controller front is central to handling routing, plugins, dispatching, and bootstrapping. Accessing controllers directly bypasses this control mechanism, which breaks lifecycle methods like pre-dispatch. Options A, C, and D are side effects but not the root issue. COVC lifecycle documentation for details. Question 6. When presented with a complex application requiring multi-language support, Camilla uses Zend Translate. She loads translations from an array, but notices that some translated strings are not appearing. Which of the following is most likely causing this issue? A. The translator instance is missing the setLocale call. B. The array keys do not match the translation keys used in the views. C. Zend locale registry entry is overridden by another plugin. D. The bootstrap file disables output buffering. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. In Zend Translate, each translation key must match what is used in Zend View Translate. If the keys don't align, translation fails silently, while A and C can cause locale issues. They won't cause this specific silent fail. Option D is unrelated. Always verify translation key usage consistency. See in best practices in ZF. Question 7. Considering the evidence Mr. Ahmed uses Zend form with file upload elements, he wants to ensure the uploaded files are below 5 megabytes and only images. Which combination of validators should he apply? A. Zend validate file upload and Zend validate file exists. B. Zend validate file size and Zend validate file extension. C. Zend validate file count and Zend validate file note exists. D. Zend validate note empty and Zend validate file word count. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Zend validate file size ensures size limits and Zend validate file extension restricts file type. C. D, D, and D. Options A and C are unrelated. D is for text, not files. Always validate file input thoroughly to prevent security risks. ZF provides a wide range of file validators for secure handling. Question 8. Through careful analysis of application performance, Natalia identifies SODB queries. She enables ZendDB Profiler to trace query execution. How can she use this tool most effectively? A. By displaying profiler data in the public view for real-time feedback. B. By analyzing profiler output to optimize query structure and indexing. C. By logging only select statements to a file. D. By using it as a replacement for Zend log. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. ZendDB Profiler allows detailed analysis of execution times, parameters, and order. This is vital for query optimization. Option A is insecure. Option C is overly limited. Option D misunderstands the purpose of each component. Profiler is diagnostic, not for logging errors. Refer to ZF database optimization techniques. Question 9. In terms of application layout, Mr. Franco uses Zend layout to maintain a consistent header, footer, and navigation across pages. However, the login page needs a minimalist layout without these elements. What is the best approach to achieve this without breaking the layout system? A. Disable layout in the login controllers init method using Zend layout. Disable layout. B. Remove layout rendering in Inks PHP. C. Use multiple layout scripts with conditional logic in the bootstrap file. D. Use Zend view instead of Zend layout. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Layouts can be selectively disabled per controller action using Zend layout. Get instance. Disable layout. This gives control over specific pages. Option B disables it globally. Option C is complex but not ideal for single page exceptions. Option D removes layout capabilities. See Zend layout usage in controller actions. Question 10. The growing trend in unit testing practices prompts is Chloe to implement Zend test punit controller test case for controller testing. She needs to assert that a post request to user register populates a specific view variable. Which method best allows her to achieve this assertion? A. Assert view hasfar. B. Assert responser code. C. Assert post request sent. D. Assert controller instance. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Assert view hasfar checks if a specific variable is assigned in the view. This is crucial in testing controller logic and VC flow. Options B, C, and D test different aspects. ZF encourages writing integration tests that validate both routing and output. C Zend test with punit for VC test strategies. Question 11. When faced with a situation where Sophia is developing a Zend framework application that must support different database adapters, MySQL, PostgreSQLite, she uses Zend DB table for data access. She notices some adapter-specific SQL features used in queries break portability. How should Sophia design her database interaction to maximize portability across adapters? A. Avoid writing raw SQL queries and rely on Zend DB tables abstraction layer methods. B. Write adapter-specific SQL in controller actions. C. Use direct EDO statements for all database calls. D. UXML configuration files to define SQL for each adapter separately. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zend DB table abstracts database tables and generate SQL that adapts to the configured adapter, promoting portability. Writing raw SQL. B. Or EDO calls. C. Bypasses this abstraction and reduces portability. XML config. D. Is uncommon for SQL definition in EF. Best practice is to use the provided abstraction layers to write database agnostic code. Question 12. Across different scenarios, Liam is trying to implement an event-driven architecture in Zend framework using front controller plugins. He wants to perform user session validation before any controller action executes. Which plugin method should he override to ensure this validation happens at the appropriate time? A. Router startup. B. Router shutdown. C. Pre-dispatch. D. Post-dispatch. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Pre-dispatch runs after routing but before the controller action is dispatched, making it ideal for session validation or access control checks. Router startup and router shutdown are earlier in the life cycle, mainly for routing-related tasks. Post-dispatch occurs after the controller action, which is too late for validation. Question 13. Given the circumstances where Grace is tasked with sending transactional emails through Zend Mail-in, a high-load application, she notices performance degradation due to synchronous email sending. What approach should she take to optimize email sending without losing reliability? A. Use send mail with send method inside controller actions synchronously. B. Integrate a queuing system to send emails asynchronously after the request. C. Switch to using mail.php function directly. D. Disable email logging to improve performance. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Synchronous sending blocks request execution using a queue, rabbit or database queue to process emails asynchronously improves performance and scalability. Direct mail calls. C. Don't improve async behavior. Disabling logs. D. Doesn't solve latency issues. Asynchronous patterns are recommended for web applications. Question 14. In the context of validating a complex web form, Ivan uses Zend form with multiple nested subforms and custom validators. A validation error occurs, but the error message does not display on the form. What could be the reason for this behavior? A. Validators are not added to the form elements correctly. B. View scripts are not rendering form error messages using form renderers. C. Form elements are missing set required true. D. The form uses post method instead of get. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Validation errors will not display unless the view renders them explicitly. Zend form requires calling form render errors or using helpers like this form errors in the view. Missing this causes silent validation failure. Option A affects validation but not error display specifically. C and D do not relate to error rendering. Question 15. Based on the information, Annika is managing application configuration through Zend config. She wants to allow administrators to override some configuration values without editing the original NI file. What is the best practice for implementing such flexible configuration? A. Load multiple config files and merge them using Zend config merge. B. Rewrite the original NI file with new values. C. Store all configuration in environment variables only. D. Use hard-coded values in the bootstrap file. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Zend config supports merging multiple configurations, allowing overrides without modifying originals. This enables environment-specific or admin overrides safely. Rewriting files. B is risky. Environment variables. C can complement but are not a replacement. Hardcoding. D reduces flexibility and maintainability. Question 16. Through the lens of security best practices, Mr. Oscar needs to implement role-based access control RBAC in a Zend framework application. He considers using Zendackle to manage permissions. Which of the following best describes how Zendackle supports RBAC? A. It allows defining roles, resources, and permissions and checking access at runtime. B. It encrypts user passwords in the database. C. It manages user sessions and cookies. D. It automatically restricts access based on IP address. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Zendackle is designed to define roles e.g. admin, guest, resources, controllers, actions, and permissions allowed in E to control access dynamically. Password encryption. B. Session management. C. And IP restrictions. D. Are handled elsewhere. Zendackle focuses on authorization logic. Question 17. When analyzing the use of Zend JSON in a RESTful API project, Priya notices that some data structures cause JSON encoding errors. What is the main cause of such encoding errors in Zend framework's Zend JSON? A. Encoding non-env characters without proper conversion. B. Missing content type. Application header in responses. C. Using ZendDB to fetch results instead of raw SQL. D. Having invalid XML inside JSON strings. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. JSON requires update encoded strings. If input data contains invalid or non-op sequences, encoding fails. Headers. B. Do not cause encoding errors but affect client parsing. C and D are unrelated. Always sanitize and encode strings properly before JSON serialization. Question 18. Demonstrated by recent application logs, Mr. Felix observes that Zend framework is logging too much debug information in production, causing performance issues and bloated logs. Which approach should he take to optimize logging with Zend log? A. Set log priority to Zend log, or higher in production. B. Disable Zend log entirely in production. C. Log everything and archive old logs manually. D. Use Zend log only for authentication events. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Adjusting the logging level to higher priority G1 reduces noise and overhead. Disabling logging. B. Loses vital information. Logging everything. C. Causes bloat. Limiting logs to specific events. D. Reduces visibility. Proper log level management ensures performance and troubleshooting balance. Question 19. From the perspective of controller testing, Emily wants to simulate a request to product viewer 123 and assert that the controller correctly assigns the product data to the view. Which testing method best suits this scenario using Zend test EHPUNIC controller test case? A. Dispatch product viewer 123 followed by a set action controller view and a Socorro content contains. B. Directly calling the controller action method and checking return values. C. Using mock objects for database connection only. D. Bypassing dispatch and testing the model only. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Dispatch simulates full MVC request lifecycle. If followed by assertions on controller action and view content, it validates behavior fully. Direct method calls. B. Ignore MVC context. Mocks. C. And model only tests. D. Are complementary but don't test controller integration. Question 20. The fundamental question is how Ethan can implement a caching layer to improve page load times in his Zend framework app where some data changes infrequently. Which Zend component is most suitable for this requirement, and how should he implement? A. Use Zend cache with file-based or memory-based backend and cache partial page fragments or data results. B. Use send log to cache query results. C. Use send session to cache HTML output. D. Use send form with caching enabled. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zend cache supports multiple backends, file system, memory, and can cache expensive computations, database results, or page fragments to improve performance. Zend log. B is for logging, not caching. Sessions. C. Manage user data, not page cache. Forms. D. Do not support caching output. Question 21. Throughout the course of an API development project, Laura is tasked with creating RESTful endpoints using Zend REST controller. She notices that HTTP methods such as put and delete are not working as expected when called from some browsers or clients. What is the most probable cause of this issue, and how can Laura resolve it? A. Browsers or clients do not support put delete. She should use post with a method override parameter. B. Zend REST controller does not handle put and delete methods by default. C. She needs to configure Zend controller right to accept put delete else. D. The front controller disables all HTTP methods except get and post. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Some browsers and clients only support get and post. To simulate put delete, Zend framework supports overriding the HTTP method via a post parameter a G method. This technique allows routing put delete requests properly. Option B is incorrect as Zend REST controller supports these. C and D are unrelated. Question 22. In an effort to modularize a large Zend framework application, Roj decides to implement multiple modules with separate controllers and views. He encounters an issue where views from one module are accessible in another module unintentionally. What configuration or structure principle should Roj follow to isolate views between modules properly? A. Use separate view scripts folders defined per module and configure the view renderer accordingly. B. Share one global view scripts folder for all modules. C. Disable the view renderer in all controllers. D. Store all views inside public folder for direct access. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zend Framework's modular structure expects each module to have its own view scripts directory. Configuring the view renderer to respect module-specific paths ensures isolation. Sharing global folder. B. Breaks modularity. Disabling view renderer. C. Is not practical. Public folder. D. Exposes views publicly. Security risk. Question 23. From a practical standpoint, Vanessa wants to log application errors and warnings, but also needs to notify the development team via email when critical errors occur. Which combination of Zend log writers best implements this functionality? A. Use Zend log writer stream for file logging and Zend log writer mail for email notifications. B. Use Zend log writer null only. C. Use only Zend log writer mail. D. Use Zend log writer DB exclusively. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zend log supports multiple writers, allowing simultaneous file logging, stream and email notifications mail, based on priority, null writer. B. Discards logs. Email only. C. Risks losing logs if mail fails. Database logging. D. Is unrelated to email notification. Question 24. Under the assumption that caching is critical for application performance, Diego uses Zend cache with a memory backend, but notices data inconsistency when multiple web servers handle requests. What is the best practice to resolve this issue? A. Use a shared cache backend like Memcache that already is accessible by all servers. B. Disable caching entirely. C. Use local file system cache on each server separately. D. Use Zend session for caching. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. A shared cache backend ensures consistency across distributed servers. Local file caching C. Causes cache fragmentation and stale data. Disabling cache B. Impacts performance. Sessions D. Are user scoped, not suitable for shared caching. Question 25. Taking into account the MVC-Lo and Zend framework, Hannah wants to create reusable controller logic for multiple controllers without duplicating code. Which feature of Zend framework should she use? A. Action helpers to encapsulate reusable logic across controllers. B. Multiple inheritance for controllers. C. Include logic in the view scripts. D. Create separate models for reusable logic. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Action helpers are designed for reusable controller logic that can be shared across controller. PHP does not support multiple inheritance. B. Putting logic in views. C. Violate MVC principles, models. D. Handle business logic, but action helpers better fit control-related reusable functions. Question 26. Within the framework of internationalization, Mr. Samuel needs to display dates in the user's locale format. He considers using Zend date. What key feature of Zend date supports this requirement? A. It formats dates according to locale settings defined in Zend locale. B. It always outputs dates in ISO 8601 format only. C. It requires manual string concatenation for date formats. D. It can only handle Gregorian calendar dates. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zend date integrates with Zend locale to format dates according to regional preferences, ensuring correct language, calendar, and format. ISO 8601. B is supported but not exclusive. Manual formatting. C is unnecessary. While Gregorian is default, other calendars can be configured. D. Question 27. Despite the fact that Zend Controller Request Abstract and Zend Controller Response Abstract provide base request-response functionality, Olivia wants to handle JSON requests and responses specifically in a RESTful service. Which classes or approach should she use to properly manage JSON data in Zend Framework? A. Extend the request and response objects to handle JSON, or use Zend JSON for encoding decoding. B. Only use HEE Alliant for all JSON communication. C. Disable routing for JSON requests. D. Use REHJSON encode without Zend framework helpers. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Extending request response to pass JSON payloads and encode responses is standard. Zend JSON provides helper methods for JSON manipulation. HEE Alliant. B is for make HEP requests, not internal request response management. Disabling routing. C is counterproductive. REHP. Works but lacks integration benefits. Question 20. Considering the evidence, Mr. Jake uses Zend validate to validate user input but finds that some validations are slow due to complex custom rules. What is a recommended approach to optimize validation performance without sacrificing correctness? A. Combine multiple validators in a chain and short circuit on failure using separate chain and failure true. B. Validate all fields twice to ensure correctness. C. Remove all validators except empty. D. Perform validation in the view layer instead. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Breaking the chain on first failure avoids unnecessary validation steps, improving performance. Validating twice. B is inefficient. Removing validators. C risks bad data. Validation belongs to the controller model, not the view. D. Question 29. The interrelationship between ZendAuth and ZendAcco is crucial for securing an application. Is mere implements authentication but forgets to integrate authorization. What is the risk of this incomplete implementation? A. Authenticated users may access unauthorized resources, compromising security. B. The application will not allow any users to log in. C. Users will receive detailed SUL errors. D. Session timeouts will not work. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Authentication confirms identity. Authorization controls resource access. Missing authorization lets users perform unauthorized actions, a major security flaw. B, C, and D are unrelated consequences. Question 30. In summary of recent code reviews, Mr. Leo finds that the Bootstrap file is overloaded with complex logic, including database connections and configuration mergers. What is the recommended practice for managing the Bootstrap process in Zend framework? A. Keep Bootstrap lightweight by deferring heavy initialization to resource plugins or lazy loading. B. Put all initialization logic in the Bootstrap file for centralization. C. Use procedural code instead of object-oriented Bootstrap. D. Avoid using Bootstrap and configure everything in the controller. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Bootstrap should set up essentials and delegate resource-heavy initializations to plugins or lazy loading to optimize startup time and maintain code clarity, centralizing everything. B. Creates tight coupling. procedural code C is discouraged controllers D should not handle application-wide initialization.